2024's Venom 3, also known as Venom: The Last Dance, review and thoughts. Yes, I rediscovered my razor. So, yes, let's start with just a couple of things to get out of the way. The movie is rated PG-13. Unless you're Swedish, in which case the villain's name apparently means the F word, which makes this a pretty hard R. This does have an unexpectedly intense F-bomb. They're really pushing the PG-13 as far as language goes these days. Anyway, this video will also be PG-13. Yes, and I'm gonna... I don't intend to spoil any part of this movie until I get into the thoughts sections, which I will verbally let you know, and I'll put up the spoiler tag, so you can watch this even if you haven't watched... the first chunk of this video you can watch even if you haven't watched the movie yet. Yes, I know I'm a little late. I guess it came out like a week ago or something. Yeah, got to it as quickly as I could. Now, this is the part where I talk about if I liked the movie or not. I enjoyed it more than I should, whilst knowing that I probably should not. There are, I've seen YouTubers who really did not like this movie. I think Nando was one of them. Not Bob Vids. Holy crap. Movie Bob. And no, I'm not excusing everything Movie Bob has ever said or done, obviously. Yeah, I don't know. I can't, I can't hate these movies. I 100%, like, the logical part of my brain is telling me this is no, what are you doing, but just, yeah. If you like the first two movies, you're probably gonna like this one as well. All three of these are, there's a lot they have in common with the other two. They also each of the three has one or two strengths and like weird quirks and weaknesses that the other two don't. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is junk food. This is very much junk food, and I think an argument could be made that there's probably it's probably difficult to do a comic book adaptation that isn't junk food. I don't think all comics are, but I think the adaptations struggle to not be junk food. But even so, this is very much junk food. It's tastier junk food than Madame Web and Morbius, but, there's definitely some things here in these three Venom movies that are absolutely not present in Morbius and Madame Web, and I worry won't be in Craven. Boy, do I look forward to when Sony just stops this whole ridiculous endeavor. Just, like, we get it. You're not making Spider-Man, right now Spider-Man's with the MCU. Just, like, stop trying to make Spider-Man villain movies that don't have Spider-Man in them happen. They're never going to happen. This is never going to yield a truly good movie. If you, like, I get, you're not making Peter Parker or Spider-Man live-action movies right now. Just, those Spider-Verse movies are incredible, just stick with animation. Like, you could do, like, there's literally 100 spin-offs you could make to Across the Spider-Verse. Like, pick a Spider-Person at random and do a movie on them. I will watch 90 minutes of psychiatrist Spider-Man dealing with the loss of Uncle Ben for other Spider-Men. But this just, yeah. Okay, so let's see. These are I swear I'm going to get into details very, very soon. But I do just want to just briefly, part of the issue with these three Venom movies, other than them being devoid of Spider-Man, and I'm going to try not to make too big a deal of that because it's been said. It was important to say, it was said, it's been said. I'm really not trying to just, you know, relitigate that whole thing. There's so many people here on YouTube who will tell you that, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying I don't feel the need to I don't think I have very much to add to that. I've seen some people do really excellent explanations of why it just doesn't. Yeah. One of the things with these three movies is that that first movie was essentially like accidental alchemy. Like, the studio didn't know what they were doing. You know, they had, like, I like some of the work of the director whose name escapes me at the moment. You know, I think he did really well on both Zombieland movies. Yes, I do think that second one, you know, I've watched it like 3 times by now, I think. I think it works. You know, I'm not saying it's quite as good as the first, but I do think it works. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't. But he wasn't really, he didn't quite have enough experience. You know, these big companies gotta stop putting this massive weight, this massive burden on the shoulders of people who just don't yet quite have the experience in the business. You know, you gotta have made a lot of movies to know how to handle this many elements. You know, and sometimes it works out. You know, Russo brothers really worked out, but a lot of the time it just doesn't. They didn't, you know, yeah, the studio and the director didn't quite know what they, you know, they were trying. I'm not saying they weren't trying, but they were kind of just doing the different things that they figured, you know, this might work. And, you know, they ended up with just a bunch of different things that didn't necessarily go together all that well. They're a little too, you know, the tone of these has always been just all over the place. And that first movie was so popular, like, they tried to salvage it in the edit, and they ended up with something that's like fine. You know, it could be a lot worse, but they didn't expect it to be such a big hit. And with both of these sequels, they're just trying to recreate this, like, original, you know, formula, which it's impossible. It's never going to completely, you know, you can't just mix everything in the liquor cabinet together without looking at the labels and in completely random amounts, and then somehow, you know, later try carefully to recreate that. That's never going to completely work. You know, so yeah, we have these sequels that are really, really trying to recreate something that was 100%, you know, ended up the way it did, not because of, like, a careful guided hand. Like, these movies, it's like the anti-Nolan or anti-Tarantino or something. You know, like, there are directors, you know, writer directors out there who will carefully craft every single element, and then there's these, you know, movies where they just throw everything at the wall and hope that it eventually just, yeah. Yes, so let's get into some more specific stuff. So the writing here, like, this is a movie, I feel fairly confident that some of the people working on this movie believes that this has a plot and character arcs, and, like, that it's doing something that the first two didn't, that really, like, just majorly makes a difference. You know, takes it to the next level. And I completely disagree with them on every single one of those. This is a collection of scenes strung together. You know, you've got characters making these really strange decisions just to make the plot happen. You've got the just, yeah, I don't think I have much more to say about the characters than what I just. I mean, I'll you know, some of them I enjoyed, you know, yeah, pretty much everything in this movie I enjoyed on some level, you know, and yeah, the characters, I don't know why they, like, it feels, I already mentioned that I'm spoiling other Venom stuff, and I'm not spoiling this movie, you know, at this point in this video, not until I get into the thought sections. I did mention I was spoiling other Venom stuff. I don't know if someone at Sony was really, really upset that Venom didn't get to play in the MCU sandbox, because, like, parts of this really do feel, like, weirdly, like, just like, oh yeah, well, I'll just take my bowl and go home then. There's this early line about, like, Venom saying he doesn't want to have to do any more of the multiverse shit, which I'm not, hey, that's 100%. You know, you are entitled to your opinion. This is a free country for man and symbiote alike. And I 100% get, you know, I feel like that would be funny if it had come out just a few years ago. Like, at this point, it's like, okay, yeah, we get it, you know, that's, I'm not tired of it, but I realize a lot of other people are. You know, it's a slightly old joke by now. And also, what are you talking about, Venom? You didn't do any multiverse shit. You didn't. So it just feels like a weird, like, I'm sorry, but that's like if I stepped in a puddle and then I said, you know what? I am tired of swimming. Like, it doesn't work when you do, like, and it so easily could have. You could have just had Venom say, I didn't want to do any multiverse shit anyway. You know, like, that still would feel kind of petty and weirdly, like, you know, defensive, but at least it would make at least a little bit more sense of a joke. Some of the jokes in this movie just don't make sense. Anyway, yes, so that was one thing. I liked watching Chiwetel Ejiofor, and okay, that is not going to say, and I'm going to get his name. Hold on. Riz Ifans. I enjoyed seeing them in this. I don't understand why they're in this when they were, like, very notably also in the MCU. You know, so that's a weird choice that, again, just feels like, oh yeah, well, we can have MCU actors too. Like, it's just, I'm glad they're here. You know, I forget who else said it, but Rizzy Fons is one of the best characters. Yeah, one of the most fun people to watch in this entire movie. I'm so glad he's here. It just feels weird. You know, it really didn't need to be. And no, to be clear, 100% they are not playing their MCU counterparts. So it is just, because this movie doesn't pretend that Venom didn't go to Earth 616, according to the MCU movies at least, you know, Earth 19999, yeah. It opens with that. It says, no, that happened, and now we're back, you know, and it just, they've, you know, for so many of these movies, they're super careful about not casting the same actors, and then here they just, because they're prominent, you know, you immediately recognize both of them, and it just, yeah. Moving on. I will definitely say the action is some of the best in the trilogy, probably overall the best. Yeah. Let's see. You know what? Just briefly, let me real quick, so that you know where I stand. Let's see. Where's that? There we go. Yes. So, worst to best ranking Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man related movies, ranking. Why did I put that? Okay, I'm just gonna make sure to. There we go. Yeah. So, Morbius, Venom 1, Madam Web, Spider-Man 3, Venom 2, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Homecoming, Far From Home, Spider-Verse 1, Spider-Verse 2, No Way Home, Civil War, Avengers 3, and Avengers 4. Now, you may have noticed I did not include Venom 3 in that. I will let you know where I would place Venom 3 at the end of the review. So if you just can't wait another second to find out, skip ahead until just before the thought section. The time code will be in the description box. Yeah, the action, you know, they really do take advantage of the stuff that symbiotes can do, and they have some interesting settings, some interesting like scenarios. They you know, next time I rewatch the first, and yeah, I'm probably gonna rewatch the first. This one is really gonna have made it, you know, it will feel really rote and feel like it's playing it safe, which in its defense, you know, it was giving, you know, it was what we wanted. You know, I grew up really enjoying, you know, when I was like 13 reading Spider-Man comics, yeah, really liked Venom. You know, I was always happy to see him pop up in a story that, you know, I wasn't necessarily expecting him to pop up in. Now, yeah. But yeah, this one, they really did, like, it feels like they hunkered down and were like, this might be the last one we make. We gotta go out big as far as the action goes. We gotta come up with stuff we've never seen in the first two movies, and, you know, that uses the symbiotes and the world well. And I wish they were more emotionally engaging and affecting, because that's really, like, they are very, they're entertaining. I need a thesaurus because I'm saying the word entertaining way too much. Entertaining and enjoyed way too much about this movie. But it's difficult to think of it because that really is, yeah. I saw someone say that they felt it was difficult to keep up with the action scenes. I don't 100% disagree. I think it would have benefited the movie if it slowed down slightly. The overall movie, I don't quite know how this movie's like an hour and 49 minutes. I don't know how that happened. Like, weren't the first two just... Okay, I gotta just make sure, because I feel like they were... Certainly the second one, I'm pretty sure, was shorter. I'm just gonna real quick. I'm not gonna spend forever on it, I swear. Okay, here we go. So, the first one... An hour and 52? Oh, right, yeah. I'm thinking of the second one. The second one is an hour and 37. Holy crap. Yeah, it's just... It's the fact that there's so little there that makes these just fly by. You know, I distinctly remember, like, watching the second movie, like, when the credits rolled, I felt like... Was this movie just 10 minutes long? Like, it just flew by. But it is because they're so insubstantial, you know? But yeah, okay, yes, so, I think the action could have benefited from tiny bit slower, you know, it's a little bit too fast. I wouldn't say that it's, like, just completely disorienting. And I think at least one of the people said that it was because of, like, editing. I'm not sure I really agree, unless they're talking about, like, the pacing of editing, because I kind of, one of the reviews that I read, the synopsis, the one line, you know, that they put on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, kind of made it sound like, oh, you know, it's like the editing cuts around so much that you can't really keep track of what's going on. And I don't think I really... that wasn't really my experience. I did see someone else who pointed out, you know, the way the action is directed, the framing of it, makes it easier to follow. Like, this is so much better than at least some of what we got in that first movie, you know. The second one was better than the first in that regard as well. Now, let's see. I think that just about... I don't know if I want to give that away. Yeah, I'll just say there's a thing or two going on in action and such that we haven't really seen in the first two in a way that... Did I already say? I guess I kind of implied or said that already. I just want to say, I think they did... They came up with something... I didn't personally really... I haven't read that many, like, straight Venom comics. Mostly, you know, if I'm thinking comic books and Venom, it's like, oh, the guy who shows up is Spider-Man every so often, you know. But apparently this is something from the comics. And yeah, that's, you know, I kind of want to read some of the comics about this, you know, particular, yeah. Now, that pretty well covers the action. So yeah, like, I guess I'll just briefly talk about the plot. Like, yeah, it is basically like sort of a road trip for Venom and Eddie, and that's... I don't hate that idea. I just wish they committed to it, because it really, like, this is the least road trip I've ever road tripped. I haven't even watched that many of these movies, but this is like... I'm sorry, but like... I love the 2021 road trip movie Plan B. I'm willing to acknowledge it's not like the best, like, road trip movie ever made. That road trip is like 3 or 4 times better than this road trip. Like, it kind of felt like they just needed something for Eddie to do for part of this movie, because he's not really doing that much, which I guess really no one is. Like, if it feels like it's spinning its wheels. It's just trying to reach feature length and just kind of, you know, yeah, like I said, every so often there'll be a really cool scene, you know, an action scene, for example, and yeah, you know, and it's one of those things. Like, there was a time, you know, in the great before times of the like the 90s and early 2000s, there was this period where some people in Hollywood thought we could kind of just make a movie that's just like one long action scene, couldn't we? And it turns out, I mean, technically, hypothetically, yeah, you could, but it's probably not a good idea. I don't think I've seen one that is just like fully 100%. Like, the two Crank movies come pretty close, but there is a little bit of stuff in there that's not quite action, and that, I think, is crucial to making it. You know, it might feel like it's just non-stop action, but if you actually sit down and notice, there's other stuff in there that really helps make sure it's propulsive. It moves fast. It never those two movies never really slow down. But that's not the same thing as it just being non-stop action scenes. And yeah, this movie kind of feels like it wishes it could just be non-stop action scenes. It doesn't seem that interested in plot and character. They're kind of just there. Like, characters would make these really strange decisions that just seem to serve to get us to the next, like, action scene. And the action scenes were fun, but I really think that they could have made it work logically, you know? yeah, I think that pretty well covers. Yeah, yeah. There's the road trip. There's this stuff about like scientists doing science, and yeah, it. I would just be repeating myself if I went more into, but just yeah. Let's see. The I don't think I laughed quite as much at this one as. Let's see. I guess was it especially the first one. No, the second one had some great gags as well. Like it still does feel like they're doing the improvisational thing and such. I don't know if they've just run out of steam with the improv. I mean, you know, there's not quite enough. These three movies are not quite different enough from each other that you wouldn't eventually run out of good improv material. Like ask anyone who does. Like I'm not saying I'm some sort of expert, but if you ask people who, improv, you gotta every so often make sure to throw in a completely new element or have a different setup. You can't just do the exact same thing over. Let's see. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. Okay, this will not. Drawtectives. It's called Drawtectives. The Drawfee gang made or several, basically like I want to say D&D campaigns, where in order to play they draw, and they kept coming up with distinctly different scenarios. And because of that, I've watched I think every single episode of Drawtectives that's on YouTube. Absolutely loved it, ate it up, yum yum yum. Notice how many times they come up with something new, something that's just different from the others to help make it more big. Because at the end of the day, yeah, it's a bunch of friends sitting around doing role playing game shenanigans and drawing drawings. It like it never gets like extremely complex. It never really just completely throws you for a loop. But because they're so good at improving and there's enough variety, they keep it going. And yeah, I think like I'm not saying I wouldn't watch a fourth Venom movie. Like apparently Tom Hardy's down. I think if they make one, I really hope they make it more distinct. And that's part of the problem with the first one being such an unexpected hit, is that they're terrified of being unable to replicate that. And that's how you end up with stuff like this. And I'm not saying that it's only these, 100% the MCU is guilty of this sort of thing too. But every so often, I mean, let's see, the MCU, we've got like let's see, 4 series within the MCU that have had 3 or more movies. Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and Avengers. With all 3 of them, the third one is so distinctly... 4 of them, whatever. The number I just mentioned, with each of them, the third entry is so distinctly different from the first 2. I'm not saying, I get why not everybody loves them. I'm not saying you have to love them. And maybe you don't even think that it was a good idea to make it, or to make it different, or to make it that different. But they definitely did go for something different, And I personally do think, stuff like the third Iron Man, the third Captain America, the third Avengers, and I respect the third Thor movie. One thing I've heard that the LGBTQ plus community, it's like one of their favorite superhero movies, or at least it was when it first came out, something like that. It might have been topped. Love that 100%. I don't need to love every movie. I'm okay with a movie coming out that's like not 100% for me, but a minority community loves it. That's 100%. I'd rather have that. I can go the rest of my life being on every single new movie. If I get to watch minority communities, absolutely love it. I'm 100% okay with that. There's like 100 years of movies that are made more. Not all of them are for my 100% for my particular taste, but they were made for people like me. The straight, white, cis man who speaks English fluently. And isn't an immigrant, and so on and so forth. So just I'm 100% okay with that. Now, but yeah, let's see. Honestly, I would really love for Venom to start appearing in the MCU instead, like how they've been doing with Tom Holland. I think that's a much better. Like, look at how much better the 3 Tom Holland solo Spider-Man movies are compared to these, the Venom trilogy, Madam Web, and Morbius. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. I guess that pretty much. I'm not sure I have very much to say about the comedy. Like, I definitely will say, everybody feels like their game. It doesn't feel like anybody's like unhappy to be doing these jokes, And I do appreciate that, like, every so often we will encounter a straight man character. I think I've seen too many movies, too many comedies that think that if there are no straight man characters, I don't. No, yeah, you know what I'm not talking about, like, as opposed to like LGBTQ plus. Straight man being the character that is not trying to make people laugh, that is just experiencing something ridiculous around them. It's important to have that because they're the contrast. They make it so much funnier. And I've seen too many comedies that forget that, and I appreciate that this one is not one of them. You've got a bunch of quirky characters, and then every so often you'll encounter a character that's just like, nope, you're not gonna get a smile out of me. I am 100% serious all the time, and it does increase the humor of the stuff that's going on around them. Let's see. I think that might just about be. Yeah. The effects are really, really solid. It's great to get to see Venom fully lit, in daytime scenes. I would not mind seeing more directed by Kelly Marcel. The cynical part of me says that part of the reason, at least part of the reason that she got to do this because they figured they could control her and make sure that she would make exactly the. I look forward to watching more of Andy Serkis's direction. It's too bad. Apparently, like, at least what I've heard is it's like scheduling conflicts. That's the reason why he didn't direct this one. And I mean, Ruben Fleischer, that's his name, who directed the first one, the Zombieland. Let's see. Okay, yeah, he is making 30. Okay. Some of it's TV. I was like, there's no way he directed 32 movies. Yeah. Some of it's music videos and shorts and TV. Cause, like, yeah. Other than that, yeah. Zombieland. Oh, I heard about Gangster Squad. I'm not sure of what I've heard. It's particularly positive, but. And I guess that is pretty much, yeah. Venom, Zombieland, Double Tap. Oh, that's right. He did Uncharted. Wow. Yeah, I'm not averse to the idea of seeing, more of his directorial efforts. Kelly Marcel, I do think, this is one of those things, like, I was a little bit worried there's going to be a Simon Kinberg, but I do think Kelly does a substantially better job than Simon did with his first. But okay, now I just gotta double check. I'm pretty sure that was his first. So I'm just gonna look up Simon Kinberg and his director. Yeah, Dark Phoenix was his first direction. You know, he had helped shepherd the X-Men franchise for a while by then. So, you know, yeah, of course, people thought, you know, someone thought it might be a good idea. And I will probably watch 355 at some point. I'm not saying I'll never watch another movie he's directed. I just don't, again, he didn't have enough experience to handle something that big. You know, but yeah, for those who might not be aware, Kelly Marcel wrote all three of these, not 100% by herself, but yeah, she has a screenplay, let's see, yeah, screenplay credit for all three and a story credit for 2 and 3. So yeah, she's very much been making sure that this, you know, she is the, let's see, only, or other than Tom Hardy, she's the only person who has written for all three of them. Wait, did Tom Hardy write for the first one? Oh, actually, yeah, there you go. She is the only person who has written for all three of them. And, you know, she and Tom Hardy are the only credited writers for both 2 and 3. So she has a lot of responsibility for how the screenwriting comes out here. And, you know, other than that, she wrote Saving Mr. Banks, the story for Cruella, and 50 Shades of Grey. The screenplay, not the book, thankfully. Yeah, I haven't watched 50 Shades of Grey. I defer you to the expertise of one Dan Olson on that trilogy. I don't know that I'm opposed to watching Saving Mr. Banks at some point, but yeah, you know, Cruella, she did a good job on that. But yeah, I think she acquitted herself well. There are some decisions that she made as director. It's possible that there was like a producer, you know, standing over her shoulder the whole time or something. But at the end of the day, you know, yeah, it came out much better than Dark Phoenix. You know, Dark Phoenix makes such bad. I don't have a problem with Simon Kinberg as a person. I think he's done some great writing for the X-Men movies. But some of his decisions, like, I'm sorry, someone should have been keeping a closer eye on what he was doing so that we're not counting the pores of Michael Fassbender. And, like, you know, Film Brain pointed out there's that one bit where, you know, like, a character asks another, is that, like, oh, did I do that? And you know, Film Brain was like, wait, what are they referring to? Oh, is there something, is there like an injury there? I can't even see. Why aren't you lighting it better? You know, and you know, maybe giving it a brief close-up or something. It's an important part of the scene that we understand. You know, this character is upset about something that they feel responsible for, but the audience, it's not registering properly, and this is, I'm sorry, that's a rookie mistake. That's one of the first things you learn, is if something is important to the scene, you have to make sure that it is legible. So just anyway, I think that might actually be just about. Do I have anything else that isn't spoiler? I got a bunch of stuff to say that are spoilers, but I think that might just about be. Yeah, actually, the music. Yeah, like the first two, it does indeed have its own unique rap, you know, song. I still don't know why. I don't know if people are like trolling. For some people are still saying, you know, oh, it was only the first one that had it. No, the second one and also this one each have a rap song. You know, like, is it throwing people off that the second and third movies' rap songs are not the same title? Because it is true, the first one, the title, you know, yeah, it is actually called Venom, but the second one, Eminem's on the second one as well. I don't think he was on this one, but yeah, I don't think that was something they needed to make a thing for each of these, but I mean, I rarely turn down listening to Eminem, and I think the one for this one, they plays over the end credits. Yeah, it was good. I liked it. This one definitely does do that thing where there are some needle drops that are perhaps a tad aggressive. Like, it really felt like they had just watched a movie that handled it incredibly well. Like, again, it feels like MCU envy. It feels like they just watched the Guardians of the Galaxy movies and were like, I bet we can do that. And I'm sorry, but no, you cannot. I enjoyed the songs, and some of the scenes, the song worked decently, but it really felt like just... It had the feel of like your cousin trying to impress you, sitting next to you in the movie, like in a movie theater, like elbowing you in the side, going like, is it the thing that just... It's way too try hard. It doesn't, like, it's actually distracting. Like, there were times where it just felt like it's very difficult to get that kind of thing to work. James Gunn didn't just, like, he clearly put effort into getting this right. And I'm not saying there was no effort here, but he also applies a lot of forethought, where here it just kind of felt like, this will get, people will be humming this on the way home from the movie theater, and yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I wasn't, but that's just not enough to justify it. It really feels like, I mean, it's been months since I watched the first two, but I don't think either of them had anything quite like... I mean, I suppose, to be fair, it's also possible that they just got done watching Shazam. The first one... Did the second one have... The first one definitely had some great ones. In fact, I think there's at least one song that is in both this and Shazam 1. So yeah, it might have been Shazam 1. Or maybe that's lamp shading. Maybe they're like, oh, well, it wasn't MCU. Now, let's see. But yeah, just like, if this came out, let's see. When did Guardians 3 come out? Was that last year or was it a year before? It was fairly recently, it wasn't forever ago, Comparing the two, it's just like, no, please don't, just, yeah. Let's see. That might just about be it. Yeah, there's stuff that it seems it gets so close to doing in this movie, and then it just doesn't go all the way with it, and we're left, kind of annoyed and unfulfilled, like the first two. Like, these are, it's like going to a junk food place that is not like the best, but it's nearby, just kind of feeling kind of hungry, and you just kind of like, you don't really pay attention to what you're ordering, so once you bite into it, it's like, kind of wasn't expecting that, but I've had worse, it's, and you finish the full thing, and it's like, I'm kind of still hungry. I should probably just have gone to another better junk food place, like, I look forward to watching another movie soon, this was not the I'll watch it again at some point, but I really, really hope that they just put Venom in the MCU instead of this, so that, because, like, yeah, this is just, Venom the Last Dance might be Venom the Last Chance to make a Venom movie, at least, in this overall, like, continuity, if that's what they're calling it these days, that really just really nails it, because I do think you can. Like, Logan exists. Think about how, like, on paper, you know, comic booky the character of Wolverine is, but they gave him that kind of prestige treatment, and there's no good reason why at least one of these couldn't be. And they're implying that this might really be the last one, kind of thing, you know. And there's just also just the fact that these, like, right from the start, other than not having Spider-Man, which as mentioned, I'm not gonna make a huge thing out of, the fact that these are not like Cronenbergian body horror just feels like such a missed opportunity. You've got a character that's perfect for that, because like with Cronenberg, I mean, the thing, when you think Cronenbergian body horror, you especially think of like transformations and like human bodies doing things that the human body is not meant to. Imagine a Venom movie where, like, he starts to transform, and yeah, because we, like, in these movies we see the Venom face all the time. Imagine a Cronenbergian hard R take on that, just like the jaw dislocating and an eyeball popping out, something just completely like, that's the kind of thing that you gotta do if you've got a character like this, And in addition to that, obviously the other kinds of Cronenbergian, gore, just like really intense, like the kind of violence where even, us seasoned gore hounds kind of flinch and go like, just showing how, brutal real life violence is, which is, that's the only way I ever take in real life violence. It's the Cronenbergian equivalent, and the fact that it's just like, yeah, because there's so many other characters that you could, just actually take a risk and do, like Logan was taking risks, and it really paid off. They got the right people to work on it. They Fox let the yeah, Reiner, okay, that also will not stand. I'm gonna get his name real quick. James Mangold. They let him direct as he wanted to. And right, yeah, he wrote it with Scott Frank and Michael Green. And yeah, they got to make the movie that their vision, they put their vision up on screen. I'm not saying it's 100% perfect. The GMO propaganda bit still kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the biggest fan of GMOs, but like, it also just felt like the movie came out in 2017. Hadn't we agreed that we were ready to accept that not all GMOs are bad? Like, some GMOs are bad, but not all. I'm not going to get into it right here, but it felt like a weirdly, like, conspiratorial personal beef kind of thing. But by and large, that movie, it comes extremely close to perfect. And if Sony had just, if this really is going to be the last one, and this is how it goes out, like, if they had just said, you know what, last one, a lot of people are going to watch it regardless, let's do the best we at all can. Let's make one that people will remember for the right reason this time, not because of the lobster tank shenanigans, Yeah, I think that is all that let's see. Yeah, so the tonal shifts get especially ridiculous in this, with some, like, kind of sappy stuff that feels like out of place. Like, it's very, we might not make another movie, maybe you should feel sad, it's completely unearned. Like, I love when movies try to really get me to feel powerful emotions. And when, I kind of resented when a movie like this is just like, oh, I think you should feel something, listen to the music, look at how sad the people on screen are you not sad? Why aren't you sad? Because you're not earning it. That's why. Yeah, I think if I keep going, I'm just gonna start repeating myself. So, yes. So the updated list. I think this is better than Venom 2. Not as good as Spider-Man 2. Yeah. Yeah, it's a long list at this point. There's a lot of Spider-Man related movies. Not gonna do the entire list again. Yeah. 7 last ditch efforts at trying to get the audience to remember something other than just the goofy shit out of 10. And that brings us to the thought sections with the spoilers. So I'm just gotta make sure to note. So let's see, that is around... There we go. Yes, there we go. So, yeah, right, as usual, this is not going to make a lot of sense if you haven't already watched the movie. So if you're still watching, yeah, there's not... okay, yeah, sure. I'll just really briefly say, no, null is not used particularly well here, as you may have heard. No, Michelle Williams isn't here. And there's like there's an implied reference. Like there's one point where like Eddie and Venom are like, it's too bad we can't have a family. And it just feels like, I don't blame her for not wanting to do another one of these. It felt a little bit like she was having fun of the second one when Venom is accepting an apology through her, that kind of thing. But yeah, by and large, yeah. And yeah, since she's not here, neither is the doctor that she was with. Yeah, I think that is right. I guess yeah, you don't need to stay for the post-credit scene. It's fine. The mid-credit scene is just annoying and really just like, Sony, please make a plan and then stick to it. Like, the MCU did not succeed for this long because they were just throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks. Like, I'm not saying they didn't. I'm not saying they always had 100% of a plan. But when you look at the, if you go back and rewatch, like, I'm not saying that they knew how Endgame was gonna look when they made Iron Man 1, but the stuff they hinted at, made sense. They let's see, I guess I'm not spoiling MCU, but yeah, the bit at the very end of the first Iron Man movie, the post-credit scene there, I'm not saying they knew exactly what they were going to do with that, but they knew they could do something. And here it just feels like, no, you clearly don't have an idea of what to do with this. This is not, you're miming, what's it called? Crap. I only know what that's called in Danish, I think. Like, yeah, you're miming picking up bricks and like sticking all that together and acting like you've built a wall, and the rest of us are just like, no, please get someone who knows how to build a wall to build a wall, so not Donald Trump, obviously. Not that I'm unhappy about the fact that he utterly botched that always gonna fail kind of project, but yeah. Anyway, yes, let's get into the movie itself. So we get a very short glimpse of planet, I want to say Clintar. Holy crap, why couldn't more of it have been there? Like, I think we may need to pass legislation to stop sci-fi movies introducing something super cool that then they don't use at all. This is like how the second Alien vs. Predator movie opens on, I don't know if it's the home planet or just a planet that they've conquered, but a predator planet, and then we barely see it, and that's it. Like, how can you show something so visually arresting? Like, I think Clintar might be the single strongest image in this entire film. And it's just there for a few seconds. And just like immediately, I have so many questions. Like, you know, Null's sitting there and he's like, okay, so I'm in prison. The way to get out is the Codex. Go get go get it. Go get the Codex. And I'm just like, I don't hate this as a setup. I think this should have been like a movie or two ago. Like, imagine if the very first thing you see in this movie was the very last thing you saw in the first movie. That would have been so much better. You know, and this movie also has, you know, look at the, you know, there was an asteroid crash and several symbiotes survived. That should have been the symbiotes from the first movie. I've been saying this for years. The symbiotes in the first movie should not have died. They shouldn't have wasted them like that. Like, what is even the point? Like, in the first movie, it should have just been, you know, either the symbiotes, you know, disappear mysteriously partway through the movie, and then at the end we see, oh, you know, and it could have been, I think they're called the Imperium in this movie. It could have been them. It could have been them who got it and hid it, you know. That, or only two symbiotes, Riot and Venom, and the rest of the... Because it changes nothing. The rest of the movie would play out the exact same if there were no other symbiotes. You know, they spend a bunch of the movie, like, failing to get the symbiote to connect to a host, to bond with a host, and then, you know, after a while, the other symbiotes are dead. And it's like you could have just said, you know, yeah, you don't have to kill a bunch of symbiotes to show that symbiotes and hosts rarely bond. You know, you're showing that with that, you know, genuinely, like, emotionally, like, I wish they had done more with it, but I do think the fact that, you know, Eddie finds this poor, you know, unhoused woman that he had banter with, and, like, you know, talking about how much he's going to pay for the, newspaper, I think it was, you know, she was like reselling newspapers at a ridiculous marked up price, and there was this really sweet thing going on, and then he finds, oh, she's, you know, she's in pain and she dies not very long after. I think they should have done more of that, and I can imagine there's probably some cut scenes that did, you know, actually dwell upon that a little bit, but, you know, it's today we can't have movies that make people feel intense feelings, apparently. Not in the big blockbuster, at least. There's way too many of these that don't let people feel feelings. But yeah, you know, the once you see her die, you accept, okay, the symbiotes usually kill people. You know, that's all you need. Anyway, yes. So yeah, Null is you know, talking about, you know, I was imprisoned here with you so far. The symbiotes imprisoned Null. But the thing about, you know, oh, the key, the codex thing, like, I get that the movie needs it. I really wish they had done something more to explain. Why is the DNA the key to, like, it, so you unwittingly become a key if you bond to... Like, I have so many questions, and I'm not saying, like, it's possible that this is the same in the comics. Hopefully it's explained better there. If you're gonna introduce something like this, I'm not asking for the movie to stop so everything can be explained kind of thing, but I really do think they needed to do at least something different here. I just... Yeah. Just the some kind of thing, because, like, Venom doesn't seem like he wanted that to happen at all. Like, I mean, I guess I could understand if he was, like, specifically the guard for the but as far as I could tell from the movie, you know, I've only watched it the one time. Some of the dialogue goes by kind of fast. You know, please disregard if that is what it just, to me it sounded like it happened by accident. And that's just not very satisfying. Like, Eddie and Venom spend this entire movie being a MacGuffin. You know, there's no... When characters don't have agency, what happens to them is not going to be as compelling. Like, imagine, it's such a quick rewrite. In the first movie, you know, Venom said, I was kind of a loser on my planet. Imagine if in this one he said, what I meant was, all I was this guard. You know, I just had to stand guard over this guy for all of eternity. And I felt like everybody else thought that I was just nothing. So I abandoned my post. I abandoned my child. And now the chickens have come home to roost. Like, it would hit so much harder. It would be so much more satisfying. But no, it's just, oh, well, you know, they died in that first movie, and now they're a walking key. And just, yeah, and I don't know why it took Null this long to send the xenophages, because as far as I can tell, he only just sent them, and they're like, let's see, I think it's called Goliath. I'm not sure they say it in the movie, but I did a little bit of digging on Danny, and apparently it's called Goliath, so that's what I'm going to be referring to it, the giant one that we see for most of the movie, you know, rather than, you know, so that... I might talk about some of the other xenophages that pop up at the end of the movie, but yeah, for a while, you know, Goliath is just fine. As far as I can tell, he was only just sent, and he almost immediately finds Venom. Like, if Null had done this, you know, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, then this could have been the first movie. You know, the first movie could have had much more going on than it did, which would have been very, very good for it. And yeah, like, just I'm not saying that it needed to happen sooner, but if it's not going to happen sooner, I really think you've got to explain why. You know, that is one of the things, like... So yeah, I'm not spoiling the MCU. I will just say, once Infinity War... Yeah. Infinity War does explain, I suppose perhaps more implying than outright saying, but it is very easy to infer, why did the events of Infinity War not happen much sooner? You know, there is a distinct... Yeah, you know, there's something, there's a major thing in Infinity War where it's like, of course it didn't happen sooner. Like, perhaps certain characters in those movies would have liked for it to happen sooner, but there's a very clear explanation. And again, please correct me in the comments if I missed it, but I couldn't really tell. Like, maybe, you know, if it's in the comics, I'm sorry, I don't think that completely absolves this movie. If I did miss something that was in this movie or was implied or something, you know, mea culpa, but it kind of seemed like it was just, you know, well, let's do Null. You know, that's a big thing. We want something big for the third movie, you know. And again, like, it did not need to happen, because as I was watching the movie, like, immediately, I'm not saying I'm some brilliant writer. I'm definitely not. I have long since decided that I will not be sharing any of my terrible writing, including fan fiction. I wrote fan fiction before Max Payne 2 came out. I wrote my idea of what I thought Max Payne 2 should be, and it was abysmal, you know. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but as soon as I saw that Null was just sitting there and saying, you know, now we're doing this, immediately I thought of, why not have it be that you see, like, what appears to be a completely, you know, what's it called? Like a flat surface that is, you know, completely unbroken, and little cracks start forming in it, and gradually, you know, with I'm not saying for forever, but just within a few seconds, and have us wondering, like, what are we looking at right now, you know? And it, you know, gets broken down, and you see one of the xenophages you know, and it like uses some of its many arms to dig through, and you know, it cuts, and we see what was behind, you know, the hole in the wall, and you know, a hair covering, and the face, you know, the head lifts, and it's Null, and he says something like, "I knew you would eventually break me free," something like that, you know. And I'm not saying that that somehow means he can escape the overall prison of Clintar. I'm saying if he was suspended in rock or something, and it took the xenophages forever to break through, you know, there you go. That explains why he wasn't, you know, yeah. And as soon as the xenophage breaks through, he explains, you know, the yeah, he knows that Venom was the guard, but none of the xenophages knew that. So he says, "The one you're looking for is called Venom. He was my guard. He has the key." And there you go. Suddenly it makes perfect sense. That, again, I'm not saying I'm some brilliant writer. I'm just saying, what I'm trying to say is, this is so easy to fix. It takes so little effort that even I can do this. And it like, this is what popped into my head as, you know, within the first few minutes of watching the movie. Like, it's so easy to do a better job. And I'm not trying to criticize Kelly Marcel or Tom Hardy. I'm saying Sony has to do better, because this really, like, again, like Cruella, she wrote the story for that. She's clearly talented, you know. This is not, and I actually, that was, you know, one of the things Dan Olsen said was she tried to make, I'm pretty sure it was the first one, where there were some changes made that made it make more sense than the book, and that was why she was fired, because the novel author hated the changes, you know. But yeah, anyway, that was the whole rewrite thing. So yeah, we see this, you know, really pale white guy with kind of off-putting, unflattering hair, and he's like surrounded by sycophants, and you know, he's talking about how he's gonna destroy everything, and you know, he's really looking forward to doing it. And you know, if the sycophants help him, you know, maybe they'll get to live. But enough about Donald Trump. All of that is true of Null as well. And yeah, just I think they were trying to be funny about cutting from, you know, ooh, seriousness of Null, this dark, and they really, I've seen a few images of Null. This feels, as far as I can tell, they really did nail, you know, it does have this really like heavy metal kind of thing, and it more so in this movie than the first two, even though all of these have, you know, like Venom. There we go, autofocus fixed. Venom there's always been a pretty intense streak of heavy metal in this character, you know, from very, very early on. I maybe even Black Suit Spider-Man, but certainly once Eddie Brock fused with Venom, you know. And the first two movies don't completely nail it, you know, and I think they were a little afraid to, and by the time they were making this one, it was like, okay, you know what? People clearly do want Venom. Let's go all the way with it, you know. And if the movie just did a better job of making the rest of the stuff work really well, like, you know, there's some heavy metal cover stuff in the, like, literally record cover stuff in the third Thor movie, and I think maybe also the fourth one. I'm not 100% certain, but you know, like, people have done like comparisons where they'll take, you know, oh, look at this, like, I don't know, Led Zeppelin, I think, was one of them, you know, AC/DC something, you know, look at the cover, and then look at this, you know, image from, you know, Thor Ragnarok, you know, that had that, but the movie around it is also, you know, yeah, absolutely really works, you know, where here it just, yeah, and yeah, it cuts from Null. And then, you know, let's see. I think the first thing we see with Venom is just him whining about, oh, no, you don't know aliens. Aliens eat brains. And it was already not that great of a joke, but when you, like, there's something called the Kuleshov effect. Like, the juxtaposition of any two images is more powerful than any two images by themselves. So goes the theory. I'm not saying it's always 100% the case. Sometimes it's not quite the case. But here, like, I'm sorry, it's just such a bad... And, like, you realize you could have just had... I don't know why these movies are so scared of spending very much time on Venom doing Venom shit. Like, actually being the lethal protector. They keep name-dropping that. But he spends almost no time actually going out and being a vigilante. Like, imagine if it cut to the vigilante stuff in Mexico. We don't actually need to see, because let's see, it did show it, didn't it? As far as I recall, we did already see him get pulled back into his own world. We don't need to see it again. It adds nothing. They go and capture the symbiote, and but we didn't need to see him there for that. Like, we see that in the trailer. I didn't think we were gonna see Venom actually there. Oh, actually, hold on. Actually, yes, we in the right in this movie we do see him, giving the he's like tipping him or paying or something, and that's how the symbiote ends up. I don't know. I feel like we could have just deduced that, Anyway, yeah, I really think it should have just been the vigilantism. Instead of, because it's less of a contrast and just, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I did think the bar scene did a decent job of just very quickly establishing, the relationship between Eddie and Venom, and some of the powers of Venom, the temperament and such. I think they did a decent enough job on that. I kind of wouldn't mind if, maybe they should just remake Cocktail with Venom in there. But then, honestly, if they do it right, there's very few movies that shouldn't, that you couldn't make an interesting remake of if you put Venom or otherwise some really OTT character in there. But yeah, it wasn't super funny, I didn't think. And again, like, the first two Venom movies made me laugh a lot. And parts of this movie did make me laugh a lot. I did quite like the whole family where the father's, really, he really wants to see an alien. I thought there were some really great moments there. Let's see. Yeah. The bit with the vigilantism. Because, see, real quick, imagine if this movie, if the whole road trip thing, if that was like Venom doing vigilantism as he makes his way to New York, or towards New York. He ends up in Las Vegas. Imagine if instead of like, oh, he's hitchhiking with his quirky family, imagine if he's like stealing a car from, so like yeah, he, like, there's, the bank robbers and they're driving real fast, and, sirens going off, and Venom shows up and, like, stops the car with the bank robbers, takes the bullets, whatever, takes them out of the car, gets in the car and drives off. I think something like that would be so much more interesting, and, oh, we gotta refuel. Well, let's, there's a guy holding up a gas station. Let's take him out and then refuel. Stuff like that. I think that would have been so much more interesting. And like, at the end of the day, like, I don't think that the whole scientist thing really added very much to the, like, aren't most of them even dead by the, I guess, let's see. Christmas and Pain did survive, and I guess the idea is supposed to be, maybe they'll pop up some others. I like Juno Temple. I'll be happy to say I thought Christmas was perfectly fine. Of a, came kind of early this year, but whatever. Yeah, I mean, they kill off the Chiwetel's character. So it's like, I mean, he was just kind of the obsessive, like, you know, like, hello, I will be your Thunderbolt Ross for this movie. I found out what's wrong with this world. Too many symbiotes. I mean, they were begging for us to make that reference. All of us, you know, YouTubers. I'm not saying I have a symbiote in me anymore. Now let's see that. Yes, so so the vigilantism in Mexico. Not a fan of this really just such hateful stereotype of like, because think about the fact that we barely see any Mexicans in this movie. Most of there's the hapless bartender who gets captured really early on and escapes in the post-credit scene, and it's like there really was no reason. Like I appreciate it was kind of cute that indeed a cockroach did survive, you know, just like she said very early in the movie. But yeah, there's the hapless bartender, and then there's these four, you know, anyway, criminals, and they're doing one of the worst things that we can, like, you know, I've never had a dog, but and actually, yeah, you know, like when I was a kid, you know, I remember my mom was really scared of them. Where she had some bad experiences with them, and there were some years where I was afraid of them. But even back then, like, I would have been like, okay, screw these guys, you know, it's just completely unacceptable. And it's like, this is not the right time to be spreading hatred against, you know, Latinos. This is 100% the wrong time to be doing that. Not that there's ever a right time to do that. And it's just like, the first movie was about how, you know, I mean, the villain is essentially Elon Musk. You know, this is the kind of thing. That's what we need right now. We need to hold these people accountable. You know, we have to stop all this exploitation they're doing, you know. I suppose the second one wasn't 100% wonderful on that either. It's really only at the end that we appreciate, oh, you know, the reason he did all these terrible things was because of how badly people, including his own family, treated him. You know, and then Venom is like, doesn't, you know, don't want to know, don't care, and eats him, and that's just it, you know. So, yeah, that. But thankfully, you know, later in the movie, and I know some people are going to say that I'm reading too much into it, and I can live with that. Later in the movie, we see that this member of the U.S. military, you know, someone working for the U.S. government in some capacity and who has, like, firepower behind that, and, you know, yeah, gets to make decisions that really affect, you know, the safety and well-being of others, other living beings. He thinks that all aliens are dangerous. The scientists who look at science and think about things and study realize that aliens can be a good thing, and by the end of the movie, the aliens have saved America. That, I would argue, is a pretty clear metaphor for immigration. And it is true, like, a lot of the best things about America can be directly tied and attributed to immigrants. You know, it's always been so silly that a country that's literally, like, unless you are a Native American, you are an immigrant or a descendant of immigrants if you are American. You know, just plain and simple. The entire country is founded, literally, on the idea of immigration. You know, it started out as a colony, and then, you know, yeah, it's always been ridiculous. Like, I'm not saying that you have to love immigration. I think you should, but if you're going to hate it, please at least don't then turn around and say that, you know, you're proud to be an American or something because you're a descendant of immigrants or a descendant of Native Americans. You know what? if you are a Native American and you have a huge problem with immigrants coming to America, fair enough. I'm not gonna tell you that you're wrong. I think it would be best to focus on like the ones who genocided your people and enslaved Africans. But I can appreciate, but so often it's, white guys who don't know anything about history, who've just been, and they're somehow like the cognitive dissonance, like they're able to understand that America, they believe that America was made better when those first immigrants, the founding fathers and such, came over. But then it started going bad when other immigrants came over, even though, again, like if you just look at it, like immigrants are some of the hardest workers. They're some of the least likely to do crime. Just they take jobs that native-born Americans refuse to, no matter how much you pay them. And Vance and Trump want to send them back, even the ones who are technically currently legally there, and like the members of the community who aren't racists love having them there. They're they're doing work no one else is, and they're just otherwise positively contributing to the community. But anyway, yeah, I did really appreciate that. I'm still really glad we're getting all these progressive messages in a lot of these recent movies. And I accept that some of it is probably just like, companies, CYA, they're just trying to make, they know that there's a growing progressive audience, so, they're but the wrong thing, the right thing done for the wrong reason is still the right thing. It's not going to make me forget that they're treating their employees badly. I think it would be a problem if it did, and I appreciate for some it does. Some people do end up thinking, oh, these are the good guys. Corporations are not the good guys. Corporations are not your friends. Now, let's see. I think that covers the That's I've said what I had to say about the whole the depiction of Latinos and the way it deals with themes of immigration, because note it is specifically like the symbiotes came to Earth as aliens, and they're hated, they're abused, but they still save the day despite how badly they've been treated. Now, it was a real low blow to bring in dogs and so that's not specifically MCU, but I guess someone at Sony is a John Wick fanboy maybe, or something, because it just, again, it feels like such a weird, because it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Like, it could have been anything. Like, it could have been chickens, it could have been that Venom is just really upset about all these chickens being kept in cages. They could have had a nice little message of factory farming is wrong kind of thing. Like, because dog fighting, yeah, we all agree that that's wrong, and it just feels manipulative to put that in there in so early in the movie if the rest of the movie isn't going to deal with it at all. Like, the dogs just disappear. I did think it was adorable that afterwards they're following like puppy dogs, basically. They're following Venom and wagging their tails like, what next? What next, person? Where do we go? Can we bite some more people who hurt us? That was really fun. That was so adorable. I'm not made of stone. That was adorable. Maybe want to go get a dog, even though I know that there's good reasons for me not to. But I thought they used Venom's powers quite well. Like the trailer made it seem like it was going to be a really short scene, but I think it was several minutes of the fighting. And there's a part where Venom uses the tendrils to send Brock flying, and he does a flying kick at a guy that is obviously much more powerful than he could without Venom. There's one guy who manages to get up on top of a dog cage, and the dog is just impotently barking at it, and Venom like grabs the guy and hands to the dog or something like that, yeah, just some really great gags there. I thought they really did a good job using what yeah, again, like by comparison, yeah, the ones in the first movie, like there's some clever stuff like staging and lighting. I do maintain the one with the, let's see, it's like was it smoke grenade maybe, and you see like Venom in the smoke. That was pretty cool, like visually. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, he's just throwing people around and slamming them against stuff and such. It was, again, I'm not saying that movie had to go harder. I'm just glad that this one does go harder. And I don't think it would have killed the first movie to go at least a little bit harder, at least a little bit more of the time. Anyway, and yeah, get more creative. Again, to be fair, the bit with the motorcycle and the exploding drones, those, I didn't love that, but it was at least something I hadn't seen a million times before, but yeah, in this one, it's basically every action scene. Now, then we have the, let's see. Yeah, he gets caught on security camera, and not long after, Imperium is finding him a million times over in the, and it is like, it's this mix of like, first of all, why are Eddie and Venom not being more careful? They know they're fugitives. I suppose they don't know that they're internationally, what's it called? That there's someone after them who is like international. They thought if they left America, they would be safe. But why did they think they would be safe if they left America? Like, one of them's an alien. They like killed people. They destroyed property belonging to a large corporation. I don't think anybody gets away with doing that. I think you pretty much have to go to Mars to get away with destroying Elon Musk's big, beautiful, not at all compensating for anything rocket. Now, let's see. That was one of them. One of the things, the fact that these cameras. The other thing is, how do the Imperium just manage to so easily find them over and over again? Like, at least one point when they find Venom's inside of a building and wasn't like just on camera. Like, it's been like hours since he was last spotted on a surveillance camera. So it's like, how did that, like, it's like, or maybe originally in the script, each time they immediately got to Venom, but then like an executive took a look at it and was like, oh, you gotta have an action beat in there. You gotta have something, and it is also because the movie kind of, reaches its climax very, very shortly after Imperium catch up to him, which serves to make the movie feel kind of pointless. Like, we spend the entire movie with like I don't think it's a problem that Venom doesn't get to see New York. It wasn't the worst moment. Again, it was a little unearned there at the end where he's like, I'll never forget you, buddy. That kind of thing, but. Almost the entire movie, Imperium are trying to catch. I'm starting to wonder, what are they called, Imperium? I'm just gonna let's see. His character, Strickland. Strickland is trying to catch Eddie for the entire movie. At the end, he finally catches him. Then there's the big action climax, and then the movie just ends. So, if Strickland had caught him any sooner, the movie would have been much shorter, which does make it feel like all of these scenes of Strickland and the scientists and the action scenes where they're trying to catch Eddie, like, what was the point? Like, other than making sure that it got to feature length. Like, if this had been a short film, if short films were viable as you know, if yeah, anywhere near as viable as feature films, or if it had been like an episode of a TV show or something, you know. But with how little, given that they brought it to feature length, I really think there should have been a lot more complexity here. And again, that is a problem for all three of these. And see, I do think that is one aspect where the second one has this beat, because at the end of the day, yeah, you know, every scene with Cletus, he's trying to accomplish something. I'm not sure he always... I guess he almost always does, yeah. Let's see, yeah, so he is trying to get Eddie to print his story, and that happens, then he bites Eddie and becomes infected. You know, he wasn't expecting a symbiote, but, you know, he wanted to hurt Eddie. He did. He survives the execution. He goes, you know, he frees... I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. My wrists really need a rest, so I'm not gonna look it up. I'm sorry though. I did like the character and the actress, and I really like the changes they've made from from Maximum Carnage, a book that I otherwise, you know, I kind of love that comic, but I do think they made some really good decisions in adapting it for the second Venom movie. But yeah, like over the course of it, yeah, Cletus has a very clear goal. He is accomplishing it piece by piece, and yeah, that's like, you could have had that here, you know. You could have had, like, did they get anything out of studying the symbiotes? I guess that's how they know how to help the cop. But like, imagine if at the start of the movie they had one symbiote, and over the course of it, every time we see them, they're capturing a symbiote, and each time it turns out, that wasn't the symbiote. We learned something new. We got closer, but that wasn't the symbiote we were after. Venom's the one we're after, and then they find him and capture him, so that it's like, oh, they weren't even looking for him before. They were looking for other symbiotes or something. But the fact that they can so easily find him, and then they so utterly botch trying to capture him over and over, just feels like, I'm sorry, don't you have all the resources in the world? How are you being this easily... Like, they even managed to separate the symbiote from Eddie, and Eddie has to fight on his own, and somehow manages to take out, like, these trained people. Just, yeah. Let's see. I think that pretty well covers... Yeah. Actually, I guess that does get us to the bit with the... Yeah, you know, Venom Horse was really cool. I think they should have done more. You know, it was a little, at least a little too short. Let's see. Yeah, the plane scene, I'm not gonna lie, when it looked like Goliath was just gone, like, I figured, oh, there's gonna be another xenophage or something, but it looked like it was just gone. But thankfully they were just using it to just demonstrate it's almost impossible to kill these xenophages. You know, it went through a plane engine and, you know, healed back together again. So, you know, T-1000 back together. That was I still think they could have done more with the plane before that. And I don't think the plane, the xenophage on the plane should have been in the trailer at all. Again, we're gonna have to pass a law. If something is not an actual action scene, don't put it in the trailer, making it seem like it's going to be an action scene. Now, and I'll definitely grant that the MCU has had some really, yeah, the first Ant-Man and the first Captain America really, you know, major offenders in that regard. Let's see, but yeah, I think that right, yeah, we learned that apparently the name Null is like Voldemort, Vagina Man, to Venom and perhaps other symbiotes as well. And then he says it himself not very long after without whispering, so that was like, there's several times in this where something will happen and seem to be established as a rule and then undone. Like, they also do this thing where, oh, as soon as, if Venom is in full Venom form, then the a xenophage can immediately, or at least Goliath can, immediately, like, at great distances, spot him, and yet he makes the decision, he's, oh, but I want to dance. Even though it could end everything, you just, like... Because you could have done it in other ways. You could have had it be that he, like, loses his temper, but just wanting to dance. I guess this is the oh my... Is that what that is? Is it supposed to be like, well, I mean, Spider-Man 3 Venom dances, so I guess we should maybe have a... I was not expecting this to be that close to a contender as far as comic book musical compared to Joker 2, but technically this has more vigorous dancing, and he is singing along, to the, was it Dancing Queen, that's also, like, okay, I'm not the biggest fan of ABBA. If you're gonna play an ABBA song, do not play the A-Teens cover. That is just insulting. Like, yeah, it's going to take a while before my ears forgive me for that. I've tried telling them that I didn't know it was coming, but they don't want to listen. Now, But yeah, it was also neat when he's, singing along to... And that was also, okay, that made Eddie extremely unrelatable. I am sorry, but if I am surrounded by people who are singing along to Space Oddity, there is no way you're keeping me from singing along. Even the teenage girl is, she's like half-heartedly like doing the counting down. It's like, I can't believe that, I was also like the CPS joke, like, wow. And then, oh, they're headed for a lifetime of therapy. Wow. Now, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this one really didn't have that many, or maybe they just weren't that good, and I'm forgetting some of them entirely. But like, the second one had several like really great jokes. It's not even my favorite kind of joke that these movies do, but like these bits where like Venom and Eddie are arguing, and suddenly like Eddie says something to the face of a person who doesn't hear Venom. The second one has he's like saying something like, "Oh, you're being completely unreasonable," and suddenly he's like talking to this person that's like letting him get into to talk to Cletus. It's like, I don't know what to say. I have emotional issues. That's not my favorite joke or something. It's kind of bit insensitive. But they didn't even seem to, like, I did think, the thing with, oh, they're headed for a lifetime of therapy. Stop. Stop what? Stop. Your kids certainly are, it's just charming or something like that. It just, yeah. I don't know. It just... Maybe they thought that was played out or something. I don't know. Let's see. The right, yeah, and yeah. So it establishes, the Goliath can only recognize Venom if as the Codex, if he is in full Venom form. And then near the end of the movie, around the climax, at one point Goliath comes at him even though he is in human form. And not long after, it's clear that, oh, it can't actually tell because he's in human form. It's just, yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I did kind of like seeing Venom's head sticking out as much as it did, though I agree with those who say there's too little proper Venom. And again, it's just kind of strange. And it was neat when Venom is jumping between the different, animals, and it's trying to avoid... because, like, if it... Well, let's see. Actually, am I mixing up two things? There's one point where it's trying to avoid doing the full Venom thing with Eddie because Goliath is close, and there's also one part where it's trying to catch up to Eddie, and yeah, we get the fact that, yeah, I mean, technically it moves kind of slow if as the sludge thing, living that sludge life, if it's not able to, get really close to him. And I think that covers that. Yeah, I enjoyed the yeah, it's just the fact that, like, it looks like, oh, Venom Horse is just going all over the place and, moving so fast, and then suddenly the military, it's right there, Strickland's forces, and it's like, were you following him the entire time? So I guess they can just track Venom because he wasn't anywhere near a camera. He just got off the plane. How did they was there a video camera on the ground when he? Even so, there was a while between the two. They didn't go to where the camera was stationed. And that just makes me wonder, why can't they do that all the time? Why is there are chunks of the movie where they're not catching up to him, where they're not sure where he is. But if he goes near a camera, suddenly they'll know exactly where, he was in Vegas somewhere, like, okay, I get that it's like, there was a camera outside that building, but the fact that they zero in on him just like that when he's not even outside, I guess they can scan for symbiotes through buildings or something. It just, now, yeah, I thought there were some really great moments in the action scene with by the water and that whole thing. And I wish they had made more of the fact that, yeah, Eddie killed someone with his bare hands. He didn't mean to, but he felt forced into it. And he's looking at his, his hands, realizing there's toilet paper on there, and it just doesn't go anywhere. Like, he doesn't vow to never use violence again, and this whole, like, because you can do something with that. The A-Team movie, has, yeah, the B.A. Baracus, do a thing of he wants to be nonviolent now, and there's an arc there, but here it just gets brought up and then nothing is done with it. You could cut that entirely, Now, let's see. And it is also, I don't love that the reveal is like, oh, but, this was the soldier was a woman, and I get, like, I'm not saying, I myself have never killed anyone, don't intend to. I can imagine that killing a woman would hurt more than killing a man, but, like, that's kind of taking away from, I mean, she's military. This is, like, it's not like he killed, some like, civilian or something. She went into this knowing that there was some chance she might die. It's just, it feels kind of gross to say, that somehow is, because it didn't have to be a woman. You could have just had, like, like the helmet thing comes off and you see, it is a guy's face, maybe even like hyper masculine, but the look in the guy's eyes is like, I can't believe it, how could you kill me, kind of thing, if that is what you're trying to do. But to specifically be like, oh, because that's the kind of thing that makes some people say, oh, women shouldn't be in the military, which is completely ridiculous. Of course they should be allowed to. They should have that opportunity if they so choose. They shouldn't be pressured into the military, but nobody should. So it just, yeah, it takes away from the sacrifice of, there's so many, yeah, so many women in military, so many in general, various minority groups doing things that some people think they shouldn't do, and this kind of thing can discourage that. And it's really, yeah, I do not like it. Sam I am. Now, let's see, what was the other thing with that scene? I think Oh, actually, I guess that might be about it. I suppose I did feel like they pushed a little. Like Strickland is like, I lost 3 men, and then Payne is like, did you get a sample? That. Oh, okay, we get it. She's like, she cares more about the aliens than the human beings. You're really pushing it. That's just, yeah. Let's see. Payne is one of those characters that there's way too much development for. Like, it feels like, because Sony cannot seem to stop trying to introduce all of these different, I don't know, but I could imagine she's from the comics, her and her symbiote. They're trying to say, maybe this character will appear in another movie down the line. And it's like, you could have done that, though. You could have had another symbiote survive one of the first 2 movies. Other than, at least they did bring back the cop. But then he also doesn't really get to do very much of anything. He just, like, he might as well be like a text scroll or something, because all he does is provide information. Well, I guess he does self-sacrifice to Goliath, but it didn't change anything. Like, that, I guess, was there to show that Goliath can very quickly eat a symbiote, but you could have done that without, like, his character is practically pointless. And I think if his character, if you gave, I'm not saying Payne shouldn't be in there at all, but this thing of, like, some past trauma, but then you got a symbiote and you're able to save someone, give that to the cop. We already know him from the second movie. He had a pretty decent amount of screen time, and here he's just wasted. Like, you might as well not have brought him back. And then you have her with this, like, intense backstory of, like, she was a twin and her twin brother got fried right by her whilst holding her hand, and she's got, like, this gnarly scar all the way up her arm, and I think there's also some on her face, and, like, that's a really cool backstory. Give her her own movie. I'm not saying you can't introduce her here, but, like, that flashback is now completely wasted. You're never going to get the same impact because we know how that ends. And you could have actually done more with it in this movie. You could have just had, just the first time we see her, just show the scar, and we're going to be like, that's an interesting scar. I wonder if there's a story behind that. And then later in the movie, spend maybe 3 or 4 minutes. She can just be explaining. There's maybe she's talking to Strickland. Strickland is saying, "You're too close to this thing. You're off the case." And she starts saying something that sounds like it's complete non sequitur. She says, when we were, I had a twin. When we were 10, we went to the beach, but the thunder clouds rolled in, just, and make it a scene. Like, don't, I think in the movie as it is now, I think we spend maybe 1 minute with the 10-year-old or whatever versions of the twins, and that's just nowhere near enough. Like, we barely meet this guy, and all we ever find out about him is he really wanted to, let's see, wanted to study aliens or something like that, prove alien life, something along those lines. Make that a bigger thing. Let it breathe, or cut it and just let us wonder about the scar, and then in the next movie she pops up, make it a bit, like, maybe spend 10 minutes on her growing up, and it culminates in the lightning side, and then maybe I guess we see her go to take some education to get, but we don't really need to see that. Once we've seen that he's the driving force behind it, and we see that she did end up studying aliens, that's enough. Now, let's see. I think that pretty much covers the over the course of the movie, the cop, divulges information. At one point they're like, Null is gonna kill, and they're like, he's gonna kill you, symbiote, and he's like, you and you and you. Great. He's singing Mariah Carey. Christmas is right there in the room, so. But the, let's see, you have the, what's the other thing? As far as I could tell, I've only seen a little bit, Nando has done like a video talking about the comic book history of him, and he is apparently in Snap, I want to say. But that particular symbiote, the look is very, very similar to the comics, so good job on that. And apparently he is a hero in the comics as well, so yeah, very, very nice. That's like, I realize he spends most of his screen time in captivity, but even so, like, he's actually trying to help. Let's see. He's not trying to save himself. He's trying to save everybody. Everybody. And I think that pretty much covers that part. So let's see. I should probably not spend forever talking about the hippie family, because I really, some of the best stuff I already mentioned in the review. Risifan's one of the best parts. I'll just a few key bits. I don't know if the boy is the best actor in the world, but I did there's something there I just wish they expanded upon. And this thing of, he's afraid to meet an alien, and they can't eat sugar, but he saves some chocolate, and Venom gets it. These kinds of things, there's a payoff to it. I'm not denying that. The later, aliens exist. My best friend is one. He really appreciated the chocolate. That was a nice little, but yeah, there's something there with these kids and their struggle. And again, Logan also has a, teen girl who's frustrated with her situation with her father figure. And that movie actually does delve into the character, so it's right there. The blueprint exists. You just have to actually understand the lessons that are there, Laura is not a great character just because she's annoyed with her, father figure. There's so much more there, I barely even do know what, I guess ultimately she does want him to be happy. She's just being kind of a surly teenager. Just there's so little depth. There's so many elements here, and so few of them, if any, are given depth, and that really just sucks. That this movie could be so much better. Now, let's see, what does that... just, the bit with, he's serving vegan food to it's like, don't worry, we got plenty of food. Vegan, yes, nothing died on this plate, and he just throws it away, just, that... And that's actually, I think that might be my favorite joke in the movie, in part because it really does go... It uses each character involved. Eddie has to pretend I don't know what happened there, because he can't spill about Venom. Venom does not like eating he doesn't like eating dead animals. He wants to eat living things. Of course he's not going to be okay with something that wasn't even ever an animal, And Martin, on the one hand, it's this, are we still doing... I'm not the most terminally online person. I try to touch grass every so often. Are we still making jokes about, vegans just want to tell everybody that they're vegan? Have you met people who don't like vegans? Because I feel like they actually talk about how much they hate vegans way more than vegans talk about being vegan. I think it's one of those things. I'm not saying that none of them are. I've encountered vegans who are pushy about it. Honestly, personally, I probably will end up vegan. Right now, there's a couple of reasons I'm not, but I don't have any. I don't think it's wrong to be vegan. There's some issues with, the ethics of other parts of it, but the it seems to me like it's one of those, a lot of the way, it's one of those things where if someone really doesn't want to hear something and they hear it once, they're gonna act like they heard it 10 times. I can think of so many anti-vegan jokes by people who genuinely appear to just despise vegans than I can think of like super clear cases of someone with a platform at least, like going out of their way to like preach veganism to others. Like I follow some vegan YouTubers that barely ever mention it. Like if it comes up naturally, they'll mention it. They'll confirm, yes, I am a vegan or something. But there's so many jokes. There's that. I don't know who originally came up with it, but I've seen several comedians use that joke about the vegans live longer because they're not invited anywhere fun, so they just sit at home, crying, eating plants by themselves, trying carefully not to cry into the plants because tears are a product of animal suffering. That joke, heard that from several different, I suppose it's possible. Like, I feel like that joke is being told from the perspective of a vegan. Maybe at least one of them was actually vegan, and in which case, it's fair enough. That I don't think it's wrong to make fun of your own identity. But just, yeah, I've heard so many jokes about how terrible vegans are, and I really haven't seen them. Is it because some people who hate vegans think that vegan and PETA are the same? Because I know vegans who don't like PETA. It's not, the two don't always go together. And I agree, like, there's a lot of problems with PETA. I don't see myself joining PETA unless they make significant changes. Among other things, there's that thing about how they, like, they tricked people into the making sure that PETA had access to a bunch of I think it was dogs, and let's see, was it maybe. No, I don't remember the exact details, but it was something, they made it sound like, we're going to take care of them or something like that. And then they, euthanized all of them, which, like, if you think that that's the ethical thing to do, why did you lie about it? I always, it rubs me the wrong way when someone says they're doing the right thing, but then they also lie to the people that they're, like, I'm sorry, I would be so, I would never be able to forgive someone who lied to me in order to get access to an animal that I cared about and then euthanized it without telling me. That's just so messed up. Anyway, yes, so, but yeah, maybe Martin offering the food is supposed to be a joke about, oh, vegans are so annoying. And then they do a joke about, him being really, like, ridiculously tolerant, oh, so much for the tolerant left kind of thing, He doesn't go like, dude, we raised those corn, I think, and she's been standing there cooking food for you, and you just throw it away. You could have just said you didn't want it, but no, he's just okay, that, like. Because this stereotype about, like, hippies being just extremely forgiving and never resorting to anger kind of thing, it's legitimately a well-crafted joke, I think. Now, let's see. It's one of those jokes that works on several different levels, and each character involved acts in character, and that makes it funnier. None of the hippies are like, dude, what do? You can't throw away food like that, We offer you food for free, and you just throw it away like that, because they're hippies, and they're, you know, the entire family are very, you know, live and let live kind of thing. So yeah. Let's see. I will say I was relieved that nothing, you know, terrible happened to the hippie family. I was not certain that they would make it out of the movie, and especially once they reappear near the end and sneak into Area 51, and even, you know, they're like a guard tower or something, and it gets like messed with, and it's like, just, yeah. But thankfully, they do. Yeah, and they do that, you know, that joke about, you know, oh, you know, he says he's a pacifist, but put a gun in his hand, put the right, you know, target in front of him, he's gonna enjoy destroying, you know, which just, like, I feel like we've done that joke enough. Again, it feels like such a weird time. There's such a, like, if you, when it comes to gun control, if you poll Americans on specific policies, then some of them are extremely popular, including with Republicans. So it feels very weird and regressive to do a joke about, oh, you know, you just don't like guns right now, but you'll enjoy them one day, you know, because for, like, I swear, I'm not, I make a lot of jokes. This is not, I'm being 100% serious. I have met conservatives who looked me right in the eye and said they think that leftists just don't enjoy using guns, and maybe if they tried guns, they would enjoy them. As if that's what we're trying to, like, legislate. As if, like, because apparently, yeah, some conservatives think that us leftists are just these killjoys who just don't enjoy fun things. And it's like, no, we're against guns because they're killing people. And, like, if you're a regular person, if you're a civilian, you almost definitely don't need a gun. Like, to be clear, I'm not saying, like, I'm aware that there are a number of, you know, African Americans and other, you know, BIPOC individuals who believe that they should own guns. I'm not here to tell them otherwise. I'm talking about the white conservatives who have, you know, so many of them have this power fantasy where they're just itching to pull that trigger. They can't wait for someone to provoke them so they can shoot them. And every so often one of them does. You know, just, that's where we really need, yeah. You know, as long as it is dangerous, you know, I don't blame BIPOC individuals for, you know, yeah, having, you know, one or more guns just in case, because, you know, sadly there are situations, you know, I'm not, I think violence should always be the absolute last resort, but I'm not saying that that's not also what, starting to lose my voice. I'm gonna finish the video before I, but yeah, let's see, did I have that right? This might help. You know, yeah, a lot of the people, I don't know the exact percentage, but a lot of people, a lot of BIPOC individuals who personally, you know, own guns, or who know people who do, you know, they are also thinking of it as an absolute last resort. It's just, you know, if you have it and someone threatens you, or if you have, if people know you have it, they're less likely to threaten you. And sadly, you know, a lot of minorities are treated with, yeah, are subject to threats and even violence. Now, let's see. Does that really bring us to, I think that, much like the hippie van, brings us to Vegas. So, yeah, let's see, we have the thing of the, yeah, I guess pretty much just the Yeah, I guess the Eureka thing worked fine enough. I think more could have been done, a little bit more depth, but it I will appreciate they actually did, they didn't feel the need to pepper those bits with, these ridiculous jokes. Like, again, I think it's uneven, tonally and pacing wise, but at least they are making an effort to take a little bit of a breather there. Then we have Eddie loses his shoes yet again. I appreciate that someone working on this clearly thought that was a hilarious gag. I don't think that it was, and I'm not sure I've encountered someone yet that did. But yeah, the thing with the what's it called? The doorman. This thing of like, we have a very strict dress code. Yeah, but it's a vacation. I'm in vacation clothes. This. Yeah, there's definitely some catharsis there. Someone working on this had a bad experience with the doorman, or knows someone who had, or something like that. And let's see. Yeah, he ends up in the suit of that other guy. I do appreciate that the other guy actually has a very similar build to Tom Hardy. It felt like, I'm not sure it is. I can imagine that they probably did tailor different suits for the two of them, but it felt like, it's silly. I like when they make a joke out of it, when it's like, okay, that was obviously not, but sometimes you'll see something and not say something. There's someone wearing certain clothes and then someone else is supposed to be wearing those same clothes, and it's like, there's no way those would fit. And yeah, and he walks up and he tells the cops, the guy who did that is right back there, which, like, I mean, yeah, fair enough. You pissed on my rug, man. I mean, my feet, not just the shoes, because that was at a point where he had, like, open-toed, like that. Yeah, thanks for that, movie. Again, it's one of those things, like, I think if it was just funnier, it would be fine, and, fair enough, maybe some people did think it was absolutely hilarious. I just, yeah. Let's see. I was kind of expecting, because Venom was so upset about the shoes, I thought that he would throw those away like he did with the food, but then, yeah, for some reason, didn't. Right, I also really didn't think the "We Are Venom" joke worked. Like, I thought that, like, the second movie ends with them realizing that they perfectly bond. There's no conflict between them, like there was between Cletus and Carnage. And in the first movie, they do sync it perfectly. I forget if they say it in the second one, but in the first one, half of each face, and "We are Venom" in perfect unison. And then this one, suddenly they can't do it. Like, it just felt like a weird failed attempt at a joke, making a joke out of a callback. I just, yeah. Let's see. Then we have, what was the other thing? Yeah. The gambling thing felt like a PSA. Like, I feel like all my problems are going away. Oh, we need more money. Oh, I'm a mad smash machine. That's, yeah. Don't know why they felt the need to put that in the trailers. Wasn't funny the first time. Let's see. I don't think it's one of those things like gambling. I think if it is something you really badly want, ultimately I think it's your choice. I just think it's terrible that there's people getting tricked into wasting money that they really can't spare in that way. So I agree with the message. It just felt, yeah. I think I might have liked it better if it wasn't in the trailer. It just, yeah. I mean, the trailer gave away the whole thing anyway. It just went on for longer in the movie, and it really wasn't, yeah. I mean, you could have just started with him not having any money instead. Now, let's see. Right, I appreciate the thing about, holding on to the plane. Like, I don't know how Tom Cruise does this. So, this is a universe where some celebrities are real, but they don't recognize celebrities that... Because, like, I feel like Chiwetel Ejiofor is a pretty big deal now. Venom doesn't go, is that Chiwetel Ejiofor? So just, yeah. I don't know. It just makes me wonder. Anyway, nitpicks aside, yes, he sees the shopkeeper, Mrs. Chen. So I think I have been I've been holding back how I feel about Mrs. Chen for years now. I every single time that she pops up in one of these and you see her face and hear her voice and she's making one of these snarkastic remarks, like, Sony, give her a solo thing, please. Like, I will watch 90 minutes of her standing in the store just dealing with annoying customers. I will pay theater-going money to watch her do laundry and pay taxes. Like, she's just so much fun. She's one of the best parts of these. I'm really glad that they did keep her around, even though, there's no Michelle Williams or Dr. Dan, no San Francisco. We still do get her. I'm not entirely sure how she can afford to go to Vegas, given that in the first one she was literally being, like, shaken down, but I guess she's not being shaken down anymore now that he's... Although, wait, do people know that he's not taking care of her, that he's not protecting her anymore? Maybe not, but yeah. And yeah, it was legitimately... Like, I don't think it makes logical sense, but watching them dance together, like, they were both having a lot of fun, clearly. Like, characters and actors alike. And, let's see. I think that might just about cover... Yeah, the fact that Venom dances, even though he knows, Goliath is still out there. And that also, like, you could have just had that be at a point, you could have written it so that Venom thought Goliath was dead and gone. If this had been after Goliath went through the plane engine, but before he reappeared, or they reappeared, something like that. And I realize, that would take some rewriting, but something like that, have a thing instead of Venom just sacrificing the world because it feels like dancing. It just feels like such a strange... And that's how Goliath gets into Area 55. And let's see, yeah, and it does also just feel weird to me that Goliath literally can't understand that just because it's not seeing the codex right now doesn't mean that it wasn't right in front of it. Like, I feel like there's at least one bit where Goliath is right in front of Venom, there's nobody else around, and somehow it doesn't understand that that's still Mr. Codex, even though it can't see. Like, does it not understand that the Codex still exists? Like, is it just terrible with object permanence? Is that what's going on? And then we have the... Let's see. Yeah. I think... that pretty much gets us to... Yeah, I thought they did a good job with, sneaking Venom in through, basically I want to say, was it Christmas? I don't think it was Pain, but and yeah, because you get the little brief sinister look, and then yeah, that was how that was happening. And let's see the yeah, the climax. We have the thing about release the Kraken. I mean symbiotes, which I really wish that scene was just better set up, because there's so much fun stuff that comes from all the symbiotes. And this is, again, like, if you had just kept symbiotes alive in the other movies, and this would be a great place for the cop symbiote to jump into action or something. But we don't know anything about any of these symbiotes. We know a little bit about some of the humans that they bond with. I just got a real quick check. Was that there was one of the? Yeah, probably not. No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is the actor known as Jared Abraham's son. I gotta say, really, really reminded me of like Mikey Day, and I was like, "There's no way, that doesn't make any sense for it to be Mikey Day." Oh, right, and by the way, yeah, Andy Serkis plays Null. Did not realize that until the end credits. Why does this say Dr. Dan Lewis? Did he appear in like a clip maybe? I'm almost certain he wasn't in the meat of the film. Anyway, but yeah, yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had with the symbiotes. It really, really felt like, again, just so badly wanting to do an MCU thing, because that felt like a third act MCU scene kind of thing, where characters that have been established, and maybe they haven't been in that particular story before, but we know they're out there, and they pop up, they do some heroic stuff, and help save the day. And because it's these, like, I don't even know, like, I can tell a little bit different, tell the difference somewhat between some of these symbiotes, because one of them, like, kind of short and stocky, and like, yeah, just there's a little bit of difference, and apparently one of them is like purple and a speedster or something. So yeah, there's something there. There's some variety there, but yeah, I don't have any connection to them. I don't know anything about them, and it's not like symbiotes don't have personalities and minds of their own. We just aren't told them in this movie. So yeah, I mean, if you recognize them from the comics, I'm sure it works. But yeah, it just, I mean, I would almost rather have something like, I mean, let's see, how could one fix it? I suppose, well, yeah, I mean, this isn't really, they don't really have a thing where symbiotes can split between. Symbiotes can procreate, but they can't really, like, split between several different people. But yeah, if Venom was one of them, and for some of the climax, he isn't really one of the fighters. But yeah, he could be one. The cop could be one. And I mean, yeah, I guess that is it, unless you're inventing because they killed off all the other ones. Yeah, it just I really wish that they had planned better, or been willing to kill their darlings, because it really does feel like it just comes not completely out of nowhere, because we did see that the symbiotes were there early in the movie, but yeah, I don't feel anything when I see them, and that's the opposite of, like, that's one of the things with the MCU. I'm not saying it's perfect, but when you see a bunch of characters you've seen many times before all engage in an action scene, working together and figuring out, yeah, there's some endorphin rush thing going on, because we feel we have some connection to them. We've seen them through good times and bad, and now they're getting to kick ass, And here it's just, you know, like I don't know anything about any of these. So just, yeah. Now, I think that gets us to... Yeah, there's a lot of great moments in the climax with the, you know, there's symbiotes being eaten. You know, one symbiote is killed by, I want to say it's Strickland, and you have that point about, you know, they were trying to save you. You know, American government hurting an alien, and thus actually hurting themselves also. Now, I think, yeah, you know, a lot of great little moments. I like the parts where, like, there's some of, you know, where some of them are like melting together, and like, you know, that was a neat. Yeah, I did get a little bit of Cronenberg there. It's your fair point. I think I'm willing to let go of just one thing, because I can appreciate that Venom might know about the acid because Christmas knew, because, yeah, you know, Venom was with Christmas for a little bit, and then goes back to Eddie, and then knows about the acid, and that was also a nice, spectacular finish, and I appreciate how purposeful it was. You know, the second one also had that aspect, but the first one, am I remembering it right? That Riot actually just gets on the rocket, and then, like, Venom destroys enough of the rocket that it explodes when it flies up. Like, that, yeah, so he kind of... Yeah, Riot committed suicide by Venom, I guess. You know, like, yeah, you know, I think it was YMS who did a great job pointing out how does it, like, he kills everyone in the what's it called, shuttle control room or something. You know, what are you gonna do? How is this? What is your plan here? You know, so, but yeah, here, you know, they actually have to lure, and Venom self-sacrifices again, I guess. Supposedly this time it will actually keep. Now, I did appreciate that Strickland, after all of this, is willing to self-sacrifice, and yeah, I like that you know, I don't know if it's accurate, but I wouldn't rule it out. You know, and I feel like they were worried about, like, sticklers, so, you know, yeah, there's a lot of movies where someone uses the cut off finger or hand print, you know, and sometimes even like the eyeball or the, you know, cut off head or something. But what if you need the retinal scan, the thumbprint, and the voice? That's impossible to get without the you know, that means the person is actually trying to make that happen. It's not someone, you know, making it happen. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers. Yeah, like, Pain, you know, once she, you know, uses the speed force and gets, you know, saves Christmas. You know what? Maybe they should make a movie about saving Christmas. But yeah, I can tell that I'm supposed to feel something, and maybe if I had read the comic that character is from, I would. But again, I like Juno Temple. I think she, you know, I hope she keeps doing this thing of showing up in the third part of a trilogy, and just like, I wasn't the one who first noted that. Was it maybe Sean from... crap. There was a recent video of, like, interviews with Venom cast and crew, and yeah, I think Sean. Yeah, I'm not entirely certain what his, you know, he was one of the Snyder Cut people. I think he was the one who wrote a book about it, something like that. I think he was the one who thought of it. Anyway, yeah, I think that does cover all. Yeah, the mid-credit scene where Null is like, "Oh, I am coming," and he like makes eye contact with the camera. So I guess they also have Deadpool envy, who is he is in the MCU now. Just and yeah, it's like, well, what was the point of the movie then? I thought the whole point was like, and I wasn't expecting them to stop Null. I thought that was pretty clear that they weren't going to be able to do that. In this particular movie. But why did you introduce him like that? Because again, that's the thing. Imagine if the first scene of Null in this movie had been the post-credits scene. I forget. Let's see. The second movie, the first movie, I think it has. Does it have more than one? Certainly, it has the one that introduces Carnage, and that. I think if I think there's only the one with Carnage. This could have been the other one. The Null introductory scene in this movie could have been the other one, and then in the second one, there's maybe like whispers of Null, but it doesn't quite go anywhere. And maybe there's also a post-credit. Yeah. In that one, post-credit scene, and it's the one from this one. It's the mid-credit scene from this one. Null saying, "I will destroy you all," and then you get to this movie, and you replace Goliath with Null. You'd have to rewrite, you'd have to make other stuff. I'm not saying it would be 100% perfect, but this, like, I'm sorry. I love Andy Serkis. I think Null sounds very interesting. This is not the first time I've heard of him. I've heard, YouTubers who are much more knowledgeable about comics than I talk about him for years now. I think the first time I heard about him was probably back when the first movie came out, so... And apparently the character was relatively new around that time. Anyway, yeah, it's like... Are we supposed to be that interested in a movie with Null without Venom? Or I guess Venom is coming back, but then that kind of makes this pointless, because if Venom is just back, then we're in the same situation as with this one. Is he supposed to have run out of xenophages? Because it didn't look like he was about to run out at the start of this movie. I'm not sure how many popped up at the end of this movie, but it wasn't as many as we saw in the... I'm fairly confident there were like a dozen in the opening of this movie. And again, that's, they shot themselves in the foot with this. They keep... Yeah. Sony keeps doing this. Sony keeps writing, the whole movie has this problem where they wrote this antagonist that is way too powerful. Like, two, really. You have the military people who can find Venom in very, very little time. Like, I really feel like they're abusing the, like, I get, they were spotted on a security camera. They're going to be able to, someone can find them now, but yeah, I've already explained why I don't think that quite works for this one. There's just too much, what's the word? Like, how do you go from seeing a camera showing that the for example, the Mexico thing, because wasn't... Yeah, they spot him in Mexico, but then when they catch up to him, he's been on a plane for a while. So it's like... How did they just so easily catch up to him, unless they just can track symbiotes? And in that case, it's just... How do they ever lose him, kind of thing? That's one of the OP antagonists, and the other one is Goliath, who... for most of the movie is unkillable. This is set up very early on, plane engine. And can find Venom in a matter of seconds from extremely far away, as long as Venom's out. And yeah, they just have to spend the entire movie, hoping that we don't think too hard about why they're not easily catching up to the... Yeah. I think that might be all that I have to say. So, yeah. I really, really hope that they just put Venom in the MCU and really just completely change the tone. I think at this point the MCU is so thoroughly ready for something really, really dark that they... Because, I mean, the last... not every single one of them, but some of the last MCU stuff, Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, Deadpool and Wolverine, there's a lot of darkness and sometimes even like explicit gore. Yeah, I mean, if Venom had popped up, Deadpool and Wolverine is all about, celebrating comic book movies that, are no more. Imagine if they had let this Venom series die a few years ago, and Venom was one of the characters who popped up in Deadpool and Wolverine. I would have been shocked if that movie didn't do a much better job delivering the Venom that I think of from the comics than any of these three, like, Sony movies, And we are getting Kraven, I guess, a month and a half from now or something, within 2 months, I feel like, at least. And yeah, I don't think that one's gonna be much better than this. I would love to be proven wrong. There's definitely some people involved that I think highly of, so yeah. I really, really hope that... yeah, like I said early in the video, I think maybe even pretty much one of the first things I said in this video, I just hope that Sony stops this whole Spider-Man-less, Spider-Man villain solo movies thing and just make something... just, yeah, stick to the ones that they really knock out the park, like Spider-Verse. And yeah. Anyway, yeah. This turned out to be a decently long video. I was thinking that it probably would. Yeah, let's see. I suppose that is... I'm not sure there's really any housekeeping left to take care of. Let's see. If there was, hypothetically... Yeah, no, there's not really anything left. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed either the movie or my video or both. And, yeah. Yes, I don't really have anything pithy to end on here. They may be Venom. We are let down.